ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Mascoutah High School Radio Theater. Tonight we bring you 4 classic tales of horror and mystery. Starting with The Monkey's Paw by W. Jacobs, the famed author of Stories of the Macabre. But before we begin tonight's story, a word from one of our sponsors.
You never know what's around the corner. Wouldn't it be great if you could rest in peace knowing you are covered? For surprisingly great rates, get death insurance with Scares. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
Before we begin tonight's story, perhaps you are wondering about W. Jacobs. Jacobs was an English author of short stories and novels. During his career, he was best known for his farcical comedies involving dockside and rural Essex characters.
Now let's get to tonight's story, The Monkey's Paw. Without the community, it was cold and wet. But in the small parlor of Leberman Villa, the blinds were drawn and the fire burned brightly.
The father and son were playing a game of chess.
By Jove, look at this move. Watch out, son. I may beat you.
The father, who possessed ideas about the game of chess, involved radical strategies, putting his king into such sharp and unnecessary perils which provoked comment from the white-haired old lady knitting placidly by the fire.
Oh, dear, be careful. Our son is a marvelous chess player, as you know.
Hark at the wind.
I'm listening. Check. Mate.
That's the worst of living so far out of all the beastly, slushy, out-of-the-way places to live in. This is the worst. Pathway's a bog and the road's a torrent. I don't know what people are thinking about. I suppose because only 2 houses in the road are left, they think it doesn't matter.
Never mind, dear. Perhaps you'll win the next one.
There she is. I'll answer the door. Son, I'll beat you at this game next time.
Certainly, father.
The old man rose with hospitable haste to greet the visitor. A medium solid woman with sharp eyes and the rubicund visage entered the room after the father.
Morris. Captain Morris, at your service.
The fortune hunter shook hands and, taking the proffered seat by the fire, watched contentedly while her host got out whiskey and tumblers.
Beastly evening. I hope you had no trouble traveling here.
None to stop me except for the howling wind.
The two continued to drink whiskey into the night. Finally, at the 3rd glass, the voyager's eyes got bright and she began to talk about her travels.
How long have you been exploring, Captain?
21 years, madam.
When she went away, she was a slip of youth in the warehouse. And now look at her.
She don't look to have taken much harm.
I'd like to go to India myself. Just to look around a bit, you know.
Better where you are. It's not what you would think.
I would like to see those old temples and fakers and jugglers. What was it that you started telling me the other day? About a monkey's paw or something, Morris?
Nothing. Leastwise, nothing worth hearing.
A monkey's paw?
That sounds interesting. A monkey's paw.
The captain's 3 listeners leaned forward eagerly. The visitor absentmindedly put her empty glass to her lips and then set it down again.
Here, Morris, let me fill your glass again.
The captain took something out of her pocket and proffered it to the old man.
Well, it's just a bit of what you might call magic. Perhaps to look at it, it's just an ordinary little paw dried to a mummy.
Ugh.
May I see it more closely? It's certainly shriveled and grotesque looking.
What is there special about it?
It had a spell put on it by an old faker, a very holy man. He wanted to show that fate ruled people's lives, and that those who interfered with it did so to their sorrow. He put a spell on it so that 3 separate people could each have 3 wishes from it.
Well, why don't you have 3, ma'am?
I have.
And did you really have the 3 wishes granted?
I did.
And has anybody else wished?
The first man had his 3 wishes. I don't know what the first 2 were, but the 3rd was for death. That's how I got the paw.
If you've had your 3 wishes, it's no good to you now then, Morris. What do you keep it for?
Fancy, I suppose. I did have some idea of selling it, but I don't think I will. It has caused enough mischief already. Besides, people won't buy it. They'll think it's a fairy tale, some of them. And those who do think anything of it want to try it first and pay me afterward.
You could have another 3 wishes. Would you have them?
I don't know. I don't know.
Looking at the monkey's paw, the lady dangled it between her forefinger and thumb. Suddenly, she throws it upon the fire.
There now! Don't throw it away!
Better let it burn.
If you don't want it, Morris, give it to me.
I won't. I threw it on the fire. If you keep it, don't blame me for what happens. Pitch it on the fire again like a sensible man.
The old man curiously surveyed the monkey's paw. He turned to the woman with a look of curiosity in his eyes.
How do you do it?
Hold it up in your right hand and wish aloud. But I warn you of the consequences.
Sounds like the Arabian Nights. Come, let's have dinner.
If you must wish, wish for something sensible.
The old man dropped it back in his pocket and, placing chairs, motioned to his friend to sit at the table.
In the business of supper, the talisman was partly forgotten, and afterward the 3 sat listening to an enthralled second fashion of the explorer's adventures in India.
Tell us about the time you came face to face with a Bengal tiger, Miss Morris.
Oh, yes, please do.
Will the old man keep the monkey's paw and use his 3 wishes? What will he wish for? Money? A larger villa? We'll find out in a moment, but first, a word from our sponsor.
Hey you, do you want to get jacked? With thousands of square feet of floating fitness equipment, Jack's Gym is a premier fitness location for ghosts, ghouls, and goblins. Try our pumpkin protein shake. It's to die for.
Mr. and Mrs. White, their son Herbert, and their guest continue discussing the monkey's paw and its 3 wishes.
As our story continues, Captain Morris is leaving her dinner with the Whites and must catch the last train home.
Father, if the tale of the monkey's paw is no more truthful than those she has been telling us, we shan't make much of it.
Did you give her anything for it, dear?
A trifle. She didn't want it, but I made her take it. And she pressed me again to throw it away.
Likely, we're going to be rich and famous and happy. Wish to be an emperor, Father, to begin with. Then you can't be henpecked.
Henpecked? I'll show you henpecked.
Mr. White took the paw from his pocket and eyed it dubiously.
I don't know what to wish for, and that's a fact. It seems to me I've got all I want.
If only you cleared the house, you'd be quite happy, wouldn't you? Well, wish for 200 pounds then. That'll just do it.
The father, smiling shamefacedly at his own credulity, held up the talisman as his son, with a solemn face, somewhat marred by a wink, at his mother, sat down at the piano and struck a few impressive chords.
I wish for 200 pounds. Ah!
What is it?
It moved. As I wished, it twisted in my hand like a snake.
Well, I don't see the money, and I bet I never shall.
It must have been your fancy, Father.
Never mind. There was no harm done, but it gave me a shock all the same.
The family sat by the fire again. Outside, the wind was higher than ever, and the old man stared nervously at the sound of a door banging upstairs. The silence settled upon all 3, which lasted until the old couple rose to retire for the night.
Well, we are off to bed. Good night, son.
Good night, Mother.
Yes. Good night, Herbert.
I expect you'll find the cash tied in a big bag in the middle of your bed and something horrible squatting on the top of the wardrobe watching you as you pocket your ill-gotten gains.
The son sat alone in the darkness, gazing at the fire and seeing faces in it. The last face was so horrible and so simian that he gazed at it in amazement.
The son saw the horrible face, and as it grew vivid to him, he felt on the table for a glass containing a little water to throw over it. His hand grasped the monkey's paw, and with a little shiver, he wiped his hand on his coat and up to bed.
Have your bones been aching lately? You can get scary good rates at S.K. Elton's Chiropractic. Last year, our doctors were rated the world's calmest by Scream Magazine because nothing gets under their skin.
Mr. White made a wish for 200 pounds and became frightened when the monkey's paw moved in his hand. Still curious, his son Herbert retrieved it from the floor when Mr. White threw it. Holding it in his hand, he too grew frightened of the images he saw and heard in the villa.
In the brightness of the wintry sun the next morning, the son laughed at his previous fears. There was an air of prosaic wholesomeness about the room which it had lacked on the previous night, and the dirty, shriveled little paw was pitched on the sideboard with a carelessness which betokened no great belief in its virtues.
I suppose all old adventurers are the same. The idea of our listening to such nonsense. How could wishes be granted in these days? And if they could, how could 200 pounds hurt you, Father?
Might drop on his head from the sky.
Moore said that the things happen so naturally that you might, if you so wished, attribute it to coincidence.
Well, don't break into the money before I come back. I'm afraid it'll turn you into a mean, greedy man, and we shall have to disown you.
I'll walk you to the door, son.
His mother laughed and followed him to the door and watched him as he walked down the road. Returning to the breakfast table, she chuckled to herself, happy at the expense of her husband's credulity.
All of which did not prevent her from scurrying to the door at the postman's knock, nor prevent her from referring somewhat shortly to the retired captain's bilbious habits, when she found that the post brought a tailor's bill.
Herbert will have some more of his funny remarks, I expect, when he comes home.
I dare say, but for all that, the thing moved in my hand. That I'll swear to.
You thought it did.
I say it did. There was no thought about it. What's the matter?
His wife made no reply. She watched the mysterious movements of a woman outside who, peering in an undecided fashion at the house, appeared to be trying to make up her mind to enter.
Who is that? I wonder if it's the woman with the 200 pounds.
The stranger was well dressed and wore a silk hat of glossy newness. 3 times she paused at the gate and then walked on again.
The 4th time she stood with her hand upon it, and then, with a sudden resolution, flung it open and walked up the path.
Hello, ma'am. May I help you?
How do you do?
How do you do? I'm sorry my house looks like a mess. My husband isn't very tidy and left his garden coat out. Now, what can I do for you?
I was asked to call. I come from Mon Megan's.
Is anything the matter? Has something happened to Herbert? What is it? What is it?
What seems to be the trouble, ma'am? I'm sorry I didn't meet you at the door.
Something has happened to Herbert.
There, mother. Sit down and don't jump to conclusions. You've not brought bad news, I'm sure, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Is he hurt?
Badly hurt, but he is not in any pain.
Oh, thank God, thanks.
Mrs. White broke off suddenly as the sinister meaning of the assurance dawned upon her, and the awful confirmation of her fears in the stranger's perverted face.
Oh no.
What, dear?
He was caught in the machinery.
Caught in the machinery. Yes.
Don't you understand? He's gone!
He was the only one left to us. It's hard.
The firm wished me to convey their sincere sympathy with you and your great loss. I beg that you will understand. I am only their servant and merely obeying orders. I was to say that Mon Megan's disclaim all responsibility. They admit no liability at all, but in consideration of your son's services, they wish to present you with a certain sum as compensation.
How much?
200 pounds.
In the huge new cemetery, some 2 miles distant, the old people buried their dead son and came back to a house steeped in shadow and silence. It was all over so quickly that at first they could hardly realize it and remained in a state of expectation, as though of something else to happen, something else which was to lighten this load, too heavy for old hearts to bear.
But the days passed and expectation gave place to resignation, the hopeless resignation of the old, something miscalled apathy. Sometimes they hardly exchanged a word, for now they had nothing to talk about, and their days grew long to weariness.
A week passes when the old man, waking suddenly in the night, stretched out his hand and found himself alone. The room was in darkness, and the sound of subdued weeping came from the window. He raised himself in bed and listened.
Come back, dear. You'll be cold.
No colder for my son.
Certainly, dear. I understand.
The sound of her sobs died away in his ears. The bed was warm and his eyes were heavy with sleep.
He dozed fitfully and then slept until a suddenly wild cry from his wife awoke him with a start.
The paw! The monkey's paw!
What? Where? Where is it? What's the matter?
I want it. You've not destroyed it.
It's in the parlor on the bracket. Why?
I only just thought of it. Why didn't I think of it before? Why didn't you think of it?
Think of what?
The other 2 wishes. We've only had one.
Is that not enough?
No, we'll have one more. Go down and get it quickly and wish our boy alive again.
Good God, you are mad.
Get it quickly and wish my boy, oh my boy.
Wife, you must come to your senses. Here now, I've lit a match to the candle so that you will wake up from some crazy dream. Now get back to bed. You don't know what you are saying.
We had the first wish granted. Why not the second?
A coincidence.
Go and get it and wish.
Wife, he's been dead 10 days. And besides, I would not tell you else, but I could only recognize him by his clothing. If he was too terrible for you to see then, how now?
Bring him back. You think I fear the child I have nursed?
The old man went down in the darkness and felt his way to the parlor and then to the mantelpiece.
The talisman was in its place, in horrible fear that the unspoken wish might bring his mutilated son before him ere he could escape from the room seized upon him. He caught his breath as he found that he had lost the direction of the door.
Where's the door?
His brow cold with sweat, he felt his way round the table and groped along the wall until he found himself in the small passage with the unwholesome thing in his hand.
Even his wife's face seemed changed as he entered the room. It was white and expectant, and to his fears seemed to have an unnatural look upon it. He was afraid of her.
Wish.
It is foolish and wicked.
Wish.
All right. I wish my son was alive again.
The talisman fell to the floor and he regarded it fearfully. Then he sank trembling into a chair as the old woman, with burning eyes, walked to the window and raised the blind.
He sat until he was chilled, with the cold glancing occasionally at the figure of the old woman peering through the window.
Good. There's no one or nothing out there. I'm going back to bed.
The old woman came silently and apathetically back to bed beside him.
Neither spoke, but lay silently, listening to the ticking of the clock. A stair creaked, and a squeaky mouse scurried noisily through the hall.
I can't stand this. I'm going back downstairs.
Screwing up his courage, he took out a box of matches and, striking one, went downstairs for a candle. At the foot of the stairs, the match went out, and he paused to strike another.
Oh, match burnt me.
What's that?
A rat. A rat. It passed me on the stairs.
It's Herbert. It's Herbert.
Wife, what are you going to do?
It's my boy. It's Herbert. I forgot. It was 2 miles away. What are you holding me for? Let go. I have to open the door.
For God's sake, don't let it in.
You're afraid of your own son? Let me go. I'm coming, Herbert. I'm coming.
Wife, I beg you.
I can't unbolt the door. Come down. I can't reach it.
Her husband was on his hands and knees, groping wildly on the floor in search of the paw. If he could only find it before the thing outside got in.
At the same moment the old man found the monkey's paw, he frantically breathed his third and last wish.
I wish.
No!
A cold wind rushed up the staircase, which gave the old man the courage to rush to his wife's side, and then to the gate beyond.
What? What is it?
There was nothing there. The street lamp flickering opposite the gate shone on a quiet and deserted road.
This has been an MHS radio play production of W.W. Jacobs' The Monkey's Paw, adapted by Deborah Baldwin. The cast were Jarrett Reeves as Mr. White, Andrea Erickson as Herbert, Lexi Henschel as Mrs. White, Tyra Gibson as Captain Morris, Laura Dismer as the Stranger, and Makari Robinson McNeese and Ali Walties as your narrators. Sound effects were performed by Emily Clark, Kristen Schaubel, Katie Grossman, and Taylor McDonald.
Please stay tuned for our next production from the Mascoutah High School Radio Theater. H.G. Wells, The Invisible Man.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Mascoutah High School Radio Theater, brought to you tonight by the Mascoutah High School Drama Club. Tonight we bring you H.G. Wells, The Invisible Man. The stranger appeared early in February, late on a stormy night, carrying a black suitcase in his thickly gloved hand. He was wrapped up from head to foot, and the brim of his soft felt hat hid every inch of his face, except for his eyes, which were covered by dark glasses.
He staggered into the Coach and Horses Inn, more dead than alive, with snow piled on his shoulders. Mrs. Hall, the innkeeper's wife, thought she'd never seen such strange-looking a man, but at this time of the year, travelers were few and far between, and she was in no mood to question her guest's appearance.
A fire. In the name of charity, I want a room and a fire.
If you can pay, sir, I'm sure you'll find my inn quite comfortable.
I can pay well enough. Here are 3 gold pieces.
3 gold pieces? Yes, sir, right away, sir. Please step this way, and I'll show you the finest room we have.
It needn't be fine, just so long as there's a fire and a good strong door with a lock. I wish to be warmed and fed and left alone.
Yes, sir. I'll have the porter light a fire immediately. Will this room suit you?
Yes, perfectly. Perfectly. Perfect.
Jimson! A gentleman and roommate! Jimson, come light a fire! May I take your hat and cloak, sir, to dry them out by the kitchen fire? You're soaked through. I shouldn't wonder.
Don't touch me, madam. I will dry my clothes at my own fire if I ever get a fire.
Very good, sir. You don't need to be so touchy. I was only trying to be friendly.
I don't need friendship from innkeepers' wives. Just leave me alone. I'm expecting my belongings in a day or 2. They are very important to me, to my work.
Your work, sir?
Yes, madam. My work. I have a great deal of work to do, and I wish to be left alone, completely alone. Now go.
The stranger got his wish. Except for the delivery of his meals, his door remained closed. For 2 days, no one but the porter had so much as a glimpse of him.
Mrs. O, that Mr. Griffin kept his back to me the whole time he did. Wouldn't let me see so much as an inch of his face. Got me wondering, I tell you. He was so anxious for me to get out of his room that he became very angry, and he whirled around and I saw the strangest thing. Would you believe it?
What, Jimson?
He talked to me through a handkerchief, held the thing right up to his face like he didn't want me to see him. You know what I think, ladies? I think he's invisible.
Did you hear that, Millie, my girl? Invisible, you say? You're a superstitious old fool, Jimson. Your mind's wandering.
I suspect we should send a letter to the Queen, Mrs. Hall, inviting her down to meet our special guest. It isn't every inn that has the privilege of playing host to an invisible man.
But though the women scoffed at Jimson, their curiosity about the stranger changed to fear. On the 3rd day after his arrival, the stranger's belongings arrived.
Come along with those things there. I've been waiting long enough.
There certainly are a great many boxes, sir.
Perhaps I should explain, Miss Hall, that I am an experimental investigator. These boxes contain many things for investigating.
Oh, yes, sir. Only there are so many boxes. Well, it certainly will make a great deal of trouble cleaning up after you.
Charge me whatever you like, but stop asking me questions. Leave me alone.
The little town of Ipping quickly came to accept the man at the inn as a topic of conversation. But after a week, a new mystery broke out. A rash of burglaries had erupted in the neighborhood.
More coffee, Mrs. Hall. It's the most amazing thing, Gwyneth. Nobody's broken into the post office for years, and it must have been during the daytime, too. £7.06 was taken.
And John, what about old Mrs. Harney's? She went out of the kitchen for 5 minutes, and when she came back, a fresh baked kidney pie was gone.
Helen, dear, that's nothing to what happened at Dr. Huntington's. Had a banknote in front of him on his desk. Turns his back a moment, and when he looked around, it was gone. And the window was closed the whole time.
Have you heard the latest at the hospital, Mrs. Hall? 3 folks sitting in the front waiting room while Mrs. Hopkins was paying her bill.
Nurse Craig just put the money down on the counter when it rose straight up in the air, all by itself, and just walked out.
The robberies increased, but the police found themselves helpless. There were no clues of any kind. Sums of money just seemed to vanish into thin air.
Why, Dr. Cuss, you look as though you've seen a ghost.
Worse, Mrs. Hall. Worse. The man in room 8.
Scared you off, did he? He's very touchy about wanting to be left alone.
I thought I'd go in to see him for a minute. I heard he was rich and thought he might give me something for the church. I knocked on the door and waited. There was no answer.
Perhaps he didn't hear you.
Just what I thought myself, so I took the liberty of walking in. He was working, and the minute he heard me behind him, he jammed both of his hands into his coat, but not before I was able to see. To see
what, Dr. Cuss?
He has no hands, Mrs. Hall. There were just 2 empty sleeves. And when he turned around, I saw something else. He has no face, the man in room 8. No hands, no face. You can see right through him, except where there's clothing over him. Jimson was right. He's an invisible man.
The strange story told by Dr. Cuss spread like wildfire. Suddenly it seemed to explain the petty thefts that had been going on. Townsmen were soon deputized with one purpose in mind: to arrest and capture the incredible, invisible man.
Should we knock on the door or shove right in?
No use knocking. It would only warn him.
Jimson's right. He'd have a chance to make himself invisible.
We'll do better to rush in, Cuss. Take him by surprise.
Very well. Courage, men. We'll capture him. If there's anything to capture. Now then. 1, 2, 3, push! Ugh.
We got you now, invisible man.
Oh, is my secret out, is it?
I don't see him.
Where is he?
The boys came from that direction.
Look, the bandage hanging in midair. Hurry!
He's moving too fast.
Is it a fight you want? Fools, you're no match for me.
The bandage has dropped to the floor.
Look, he's taking off the other one.
We'll never catch him once he gets them off. He'll be invisible again.
There, that's the last of it. Now come and catch me if you can. Fools, all of you. Here, Dr. Cuss, a blow with the poker to teach you to meddle where you aren't wanted.
He's killed the doctor.
I'll kill all of you before I'm through. You may have found out my secret, but you'll never track me down. You'll never catch me. Nobody can catch the invisible man. Ha-ha!
Was the invisible man right? Would he get away with his many crimes?
How you doing? Looking for a place to eat, drink, and be scary? Come or trick-or-treat yourself at Lazy Bones Barbecue, home of our world-famous spare ribs. We're just dying to see you. Bone apple tea.
Now, there could be no doubt. The whole of Ipping was convinced that they had been visited by an invisible man. Word spread rapidly from town to town. In neighboring Burdock, the story was presented in the evening paper, where it caught the eye of Dr. Kemp.
Have you heard about the strange goings-on at Ipping, Dr. Kemp? An invisible man, they say.
Yes, Miss Mallory, I have. I've just been reading about it. Rubbish. Superstitious rubbish.
I thought so myself, Dr. Kemp, but they say...
I don't care what they say. It's simply a case of mass hysteria. A readily explainable phenomenon, I can assure you.
All the same, sir, I thought I'd leave a bit earlier than usual tonight, if you don't mind. Just in case the invisible man is walking around. I shouldn't like to meet him, you know.
I tell you, it's impossible, Miss Mallory. Still and all, you may leave if you like. Just see that the windows are all closed in the library. I'm going there in a moment to do some work.
Yes, sir. I'm sure you must think I am foolish, Dr. Kemp.
That you are, Miss Mallory. If you should bump into this invisible man, you should be certain to give him my regards.
It was 2 o'clock before Dr. Kemp had finished his work for the night. He rose, yawned, and went upstairs to bed. He had already removed his coat and vest when suddenly he noticed that something seemed odd in the room.
Strange. Something seems not quite right. Hello? What's this? The bed is depressed as though someone had been sitting on it. And there's a sound, as though someone were breathing heavily. My imagination's playing tricks on me. All that talk of an invisible man even has me rattled. How did that door come to fly shut? There's no breeze. The window isn't open. Is there someone in my room?
Hello, Kemp!
Who said that? Where are you?
I say this is a piece of luck. Fancy seeing Kemp again after all these years.
How do you know my name? Who is it?
I should think you'd be able to guess who I am, after all the talk you've heard. I'm the Invisible Man. Doesn't that frighten you?
I am a scientist. I don't believe you existed until now, but as I have been forced to change my mind, I see no reason to lose hold of my senses.
You were always a man of nerve, Kemp. Don't you recognize my voice? I'm Griffin. Of University College, we were students there.
Griffin?
I was younger than you were. You must remember me. I was an albino with white hair, pale skin. I'm still a man like yourself, only now I'm invisible.
I do remember you, Griffin. But how did this come about?
You must promise not to tell a soul. It's horrible enough, but I will tell you the whole story.
My dear fellow, I cannot promise.
You will promise me, Dr. Kemp. Remember that though you can't see me, I can see you all the time. One false move, one sign of giving warning to anyone, and you are as good as dead. I see by your face you understand. I shall tell you my story.
There it happened that in the middle of the night, Dr. Kemp found himself a prisoner by his own fire, listening to the most incredible story he had ever heard.
Dr. Kemp, as an albino, I suppose, I was naturally attracted to the subject of pigments. When I was in college, I was very interested in problems of light. I began doing some experiments in changing the color of various substances. Finally, by accident, I hit on a method of making any object, a piece of wood, a lump of coal, absolutely colorless, as transparent as water. And then, I had a brilliant idea. If I could transform any kind of matter, why not a living animal? In short, why not make myself invisible?
You must have had many adventures as an invisible man.
Many adventures, but it wasn't going as I had planned. I'm invisible only when I am undressed. With clothes on, I can be seen as easily as you. If I go without my clothes, dogs nip at me. They pick up my scent even if they don't see me. There is always trouble. That is why this is such a stroke of luck, my running into you.
What do I have to do with it?
With you in on my secret. I can take refuge in your house. I can sleep in your bed, eat at your table, warm myself by your fire, and no one will be the wiser. Alone, there is little I can do, but with friends, 1,000 things are possible.
What things?
Together, Kemp, we will rule the world. All who disobey us, we shall kill.
Kill?
Suppose a message slipped under the door of the mayor's house saying, deliver 10,000 pounds to the first empty table at the inn by tomorrow noon, or you will die. He wouldn't do it, would he? So the Invisible Man kills him, and no one would know who did it.
You're mad, Griffin. Mad!
You will do nothing of the kind, Kemp. Either you will do what I say you will, or you will become my first victim.
That night, the terrified Kemp was unable to sleep. Thoughts kept rolling in his mind, but one became clearer and clearer. He must get help.
Tiptoeing to the door of the room in which Griffin lay, Kemp was reassured by the steady sound of breathing that the Invisible Man was asleep. Quickly, he returned to the library, where he wrote an urgent note.
Miss Mallory, I'm a prisoner of the Invisible Man. I do not enter the house. Send help at once. There, I've done it. I'll just slip this around the outside doorknob where Miss Hall will see it. Now I will be safe.
Kemp made his way back to his room, and for the first time that night, managed to fall asleep.
The Invisible Man, tired from his adventure, slept late. When at last he entered the dining room, Kemp knew he had come in by the rustling of the drapes. His voice was calmer than it had been the night before.
Well, Kemp, have you thought over what I have said?
Yes, Griffin, I have. And I can't say I like it.
No one asked you to like it. What was that?
Nothing, Griffin. Nothing.
I heard a door open. You betrayed me, didn't you?
No, Griffin, no.
You are a liar. They'll never catch me, Kemp. No one will ever catch me. I swear to you, Kemp, you will pay for this treachery.
Dr. Kemp, your housekeeper told us to come.
There's no time to lose, Constable. He's by the door.
Surround the door, men. Don't let him through.
Throwing books, are you, Griffin? He must be somewhere by the bookcase.
You'll never catch me, Kemp. Never.
Surround the room, men. Feel through the air with your hands. It's the only way. He must be by the door again. To the door! He's broken the window. Look, Dr. Kemp, in the mud beneath your window sill. A footprint.
He escaped! Heaven help us all! Constable Adams, the Invisible Man has escaped. His reign of terror has begun.
Now that the truth about the Invisible Man was known, Dr. Kemp resolved to use every tool at his disposal.
Constable Adams, we must set a watch on every train and carriage leaving the countryside. Then, we must prevent him from eating or sleeping. Food and houses must be locked up.
I understand, Doctor. Clothes cannot be put out to dry, but must be kept indoors. Spread the road with broken glass. He is barefoot. Go through the fields with sticks, beating the air and ground for every inch. And bloodhounds, Dr. Kemp. We must get the dogs, for they can smell what cannot be seen. Let's go, men.
Days went by with no results. Suddenly, on the fourth night, a note was pushed under Dr. Kemp's locked door.
Dr. Kemp, by now another man would have been caught or starved, but I am no ordinary man. Be warned, I shall have my revenge. I will kill you tonight at 9 o'clock.
No matter where you are, no matter what you are doing, you cannot escape. Oh, Dr. Kemp, is there nothing we can do? Surely you aren't going to sit back and just let him kill you.
That is exactly what I'm going to do. Sit back and wait. But he won't kill me. The man is mad, and in his madness, he doesn't see that he is giving us the very chance we need.
What chance, Dr. Kemp?
All is not lost, Constable Adams. Listen, I have a plan.
That night, as the clock strikes 9, Dr. Kemp opens his front door and slowly, unaccompanied and unarmed, begins to walk down the path. When he reaches the street, dark and empty.
Griffin, I know when I am beaten. You have sworn to kill me tonight, and I cannot escape you. I have come here to keep my appointment with you.
Suddenly, Kemp feels a pair of man's hands circling his throat. Slowly, they tighten on his throat.
Harder, harder, Griffin. Soon it will be over.
Slowly, Kemp's body bends beneath the pressure of the murderer's strength.
You were a fool to try to capture me, Kemp. If you would listen to me, you might have ruled the world, but now you've brought about your own destruction.
Dr. Kemp, are you all right?
Yes. What about Griffin? Did you get him?
I can feel his body here on the ground. There is no heartbeat.
Oh, Dr. Kemp, I've never been so frightened in all my life. Are you all right?
Dr. Kemp, it was a stroke of genius. Genius!
I knew that he would try and kill me with his bare hands. If he had used a weapon, you could have seen him. He must have guessed I would be watched by someone. But what he didn't think of was that you would be able to guess his position and could take careful aim.
Look, Dr. Kemp, the dead man!
He's becoming visible again.
How horrible. Look at the face. Such madness, such torment, such pain, and grief in its twisted features.
I can't bear to look. It's so hideous. I almost wish he were invisible again.
If the world can learn its lesson from the story of this evil genius, we will never again know anyone mad enough to try to become what Griffin became. He has proved that there can never be any happiness for anyone who wishes to rule the world. Certainly not for the Invisible Man.
This has been a production of the Mascoutah High School Radio Theater. The Invisible Man was written by H.G. Wells, adapted by Deborah Baldwin. Our cast was Makari Robinson McNeese as Griffin, Avi Aharon as Mrs. Hall, Sierra Hirsch as Jimson, Shelby Flynn as Millie, Alyssa Harris as First Woman, Addie Anthony as Second Woman, Andrea Erickson as Third Woman, Justin Waltemate as Dr. Cuss, Ali Waltese as Mrs. Mallory, Jaron Knobloch as Dr. Kemp, Tyra Gibson as Constable Adams, and Laura Dismer and Finn Hotman as your narrators. Sound effects performed by Emily Clark, Kristen Chauvel, Katie Grossman, and Taylor McDonald. Stay for our next story, The Canterville Ghost, brought to you by the Mascoutah High School Drama Club. This has been a production of the Mascoutah High School Radio Theater.
Does your witch's nose have you feeling frightening? Is your flesh looking saggy? Luckily for you, there is a solution. Come down to Dr. Frankenstein's Plastic Surgery and Spa. You'll feel monstrously good after Dr. Stein is through with you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our third story of Mascoutah High School Radio Theater. Tonight, the Mascoutah High School Drama Club brings you a tale of the supernatural based upon the Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. It is a tale of regret, intrigue, and mystery that can only be solved by a young child. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you the Canterville Ghost.
Ghost.
Precisely. A ghost.
My lord, you actually expect me to believe that Canterville Chase is haunted or that there exists such a thing as a ghost?
My dear Mr. Otis, I feel it my utmost duty as the present owner of Canterville Chase to acquaint you and your family as prospective owners with the facts. Your belief in them rests quite naturally with yourselves.
In America, my lord, we have everything that money can buy. We have many of your best actors, your celebrities, and stars of sports, your plays, your novels, your works of art. Believe me, if there were such a thing as a ghost in Europe or England, we'd have it at home in one of our public museums or on the road, in a theatrical production.
Possibly, Mr. Otis. I fear, however, that the ghosts exist, though it may have resisted the overtures of our enterprising American producers. It has been well known for 3 centuries and always makes its appearance.
At Canterville Chase?
At Canterville Chase, immediately before the death of any member of our family.
Well, so does the family doctor, for that matter, Lord Canterville.
We have not cared to live in the place ourselves.
But there is no such thing, sir, as a ghost.
My great-aunt, the Dowager Duchess of Bolton, was frightened into a fit.
By this ghost.
By 2 skeleton hands being placed on her shoulders as she was dressing for dinner.
Imagination, Lord Canterville. Pure, maybe impure, imagination.
In conclusion, Mr. Otis, I feel bound to tell you that the ghost has been seen by several members of my family. None of our younger servants would stay with us, and Lady Canterville slept very little at night because of mysterious and persistent noises that came from the corridor and the library.
My lord, I appreciate your frankness. I'll take the furniture and the ghost at evaluation. We won't mind a ghost in the house. It's perfectly all right.
Quite so. Only I beg you to remember, I warned you.
Follow your favorite streamers on Which, the world's top streaming platform. Watch ghouls and goblins just like you play games like Fork Knife, Call of Spooky Warzone, and more. Sign up now before it's too late.
I bid you welcome to Canterville Chase.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, what a lovely house.
Say, I'm going to like this. Thank you for permitting me to stay on, sir.
Hey, Melissa, ask her where the ghost is.
Oh, she wouldn't know.
We should be lost in this great house without your care.
Tea.
Any cakes, Pa? Come on, Melissa.
Now don't you children touch anything.
I put tea in the library, madam.
So my children have discovered.
Huh? Oh, yes. Very pretty. Better pour the tea, Elizabeth.
I'll take your wrap, madam.
Gee, these muffins are good.
They're not muffins, Melissa. They're scones. Aren't they, Mother?
What, dear?
I don't care whether they're scones or muffins. They taste great.
I'd rather have cinnamon toast.
Tea, Washington?
No thanks, Mother. Gee, I don't think I've seen such a beautiful sunset since we've been in England.
Well, we deserve a clear day for a change.
I never dreamed there could be so much rain in 1 month, but today is perfect.
Oh dear, I pushed something off the tray. A spoon, I think.
I'll get it, madam.
Thank you, Mrs. Umney. Right over there in front of the fireplace. I must have... Why, Mrs. Umney, that spot. Children, did you spill anything?
Where, Mother?
There in front of the fireplace. I'm sure something has been spilled.
Yes, madam. Blood.
Blood?
What's this?
Blood has been spilled on that spot.
Oh!
Get out of my way, Melissa. Let me see the blood.
Are you serious, Mrs. Umney?
Quite, madam.
Here, let me see.
How horrid. I don't care at all for blood stains on the carpet.
Don't worry, Elizabeth. We'll get rid of it.
It's the blood of Lady Eleanor de Canterville.
I don't care whose blood it is, Mrs. Umney. It must be removed.
She was murdered on that spot in 1575.
Murdered?
Yes, miss, murdered by her own husband, Sir Simon de Canterville.
Say, Dad, some family these Cantervilles.
Sir Simon survived 9 years and then mysteriously and suddenly disappeared. His body has never been discovered. It's his spirit, his guilty spirit, that still haunts the manor.
What nonsense. Get the Pinkerton from my suitcase, Washington.
Gee, it's a swell blood spot, ain't it, Molly?
It cannot be removed, madam.
Bah. Pinkerton's champion stain remover will clean it up in no time.
But sir, Mr. Otis, I beg of you.
See? Now it's all gone. I knew Pinkerton would do it.
You shouldn't have done that, sir. You shouldn't.
Hiram, quickly. Mrs. Umney's fainted. Virginia, get me some water.
Maybe it was the blood stain.
She ought to be used to it since 1575.
There, she'll be all right now. Are you better, Mrs. Umney?
Oh, madam, there's trouble coming now, and this is your first day in the house.
What do you mean, trouble?
I've seen things with my own eyes, sir, that would make any Christian's hair stand on end. There are awful things done here.
Oh no! Did you spill juice on your favorite white shirt again? Do your walls have slightly scratch marks? Do you have stains that you just can't get out? Call Scarecrow, home of murderously good prices. Scarecrow, like it never happened.
We're back for more of the Canterville Ghost here on tonight's program. We left the Otis family from America huddled around the Canterville mansion housekeeper, Mrs. Umney. Let's see what happens next.
If you're talking about ghosts, we're not afraid of ghosts, are we, children?
Of course not.
I'd like to see a ghost, though.
So would I. A big one.
Many and many a night I've not closed my eyes for even a wink of sleep. Tonight is sure to be another. I'll take my supper up to my room if you don't mind. That storm didn't come up all of a sudden, like for nothing. Good night to you, madam, and you, sir, and the Lord protect you all.
What's that striking now, Elizabeth?
It must be 12. We came up at about 11. Go to sleep, Hiram.
I've been asleep. Just before the clock started to strike, I thought I heard something outside in the hallway. A sort of clanking sound.
Now, Hiram, if you're trying to frighten me.
Of course I'm not trying to frighten you. But I tell you I heard something. Be quiet. There. Do you hear that?
Yes, I did, Hiram. It sounded like a chain being dragged.
Like a rusty chain.
Get up, strike a match. It's coming near. It's right outside the door now. See what it is, Hiram?
That's exactly what I'm... What the devil are you screaming about, Elizabeth?
Did you see it, Hiram?
Of course I saw it.
Horrible. A terrible looking old man. His eyes were red as burning coals, and his long gray hair was ugly. Something was hanging from his wrists and ankles.
Chains. They're what we heard.
Why don't you do something, Hiram?
I am. Be quiet. My dear sir, I really must insist on your oiling those chains. Here's a small bottle of Tammany lubricator. I shall leave it here on this hall table.
Hiram, what did you do?
The only thing I could think of to stop that blooming clanking. Maybe we can go to sleep now.
What was that?
I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Something broke.
You missed him, Molly. Now he's gone.
Here. What's going on out here?
We saw him, Daddy. We saw him. A dirty old man.
It must have been the Canterville ghost.
It was the ghost, Daddy, of that old man. The old man who murdered his wife down in the library.
Nonsense. You can't tell me.
Here she comes. What's the matter, Verge?
Mother, Daddy, I was just down in the library. I couldn't sleep and went down for my writing case, which I'd left in front of the fire.
Did you see him, Verge?
Him? Who?
Molly missed him too. Wash. Almost hit him with our pillow.
What's in the glass?
It's the bottle of Tammany lubricating oil. I put it here on the table for that whatever it was.
The Canterville ghost. The old man. He was up here in the hall.
He broke a bottle to pieces and disappeared just as I threw a pillow at him. Daddy saw him.
Virginia, are you all right?
Yes, I'm all right, but Mother, Daddy, that blood stain on the carpet in front of the fire?
Yes, dear, forget about it. Your father wiped it out.
That's it, Mother. It's back again. Redder and bloodier than it was before.
YouSpook is the perfect platform to watch any scary video you can think of. Did you know that 87% of our viewers are not subscribed? Please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. If we get 10,000 subs this week, they'll finally let me leave.
We're back to tonight's episode of The Canterville Ghost. We left our family in a state of hysteria as the blood stain on the carpet is returned, even after a good washing with a cleaner. We now join them.
Well, if you ask me, we've been here a whole week and we haven't made much progress.
What can you do in weather like this? It's lucky we have such big fireplaces.
I'm not talking about the weather. I'm talking about the ghost.
Oh, now, Washington, can't we go to bed one night without talking about the horrible apparition?
The more we talk about it, Elizabeth, the less it should frighten you. You don't see me or even the twins shuddering and screaming. Virginia isn't afraid.
No, I feel sort of sorry for him. Poor old ghost.
Well, I can't help feeling that it would be much safer if you, Hiram, and Washington, and even the twins took it more seriously. We don't want to have to move.
Seriously, I don't mind the old fellow if he'll just keep quiet and let us sleep. After more than 300 years, he certainly has a claim on the place. But I'll tell you one thing. If he doesn't use that Tammany lubricator and quit smashing my bottles to pieces, I'm going to take his chains away from him.
He who laughs last.
Ghosts do not laugh, Elizabeth. Mind you, I do think that pillow throwing and pea shooting,
Now, for heaven's sake, Hiram, don't start the twins again. They're fast asleep long ago.
getting rested up for tonight, probably. The little devils.
Might I come in, madam?
Of course, Mrs. Umney, come in.
Madam and sir, I'm upset about everything this past week.
Of course, we all are, Mrs. Umney, but it's not your fault. This beastly weather, getting settled.
Not that, madam. It's what goes on at night.
Nonsense. We'll have all those hijinks cleared up in no time, Mrs. Umney. Besides, Mrs. Otis gave you full permission to remain in your room, safe and sound.
Safe? Was old Madame de Tremoulox safe when she woke up early one morning and saw a skeleton seated in her favorite armchair reading her diary? Was Lady Stutfield safe when 5 unseen fingers clutched her throat so tightly that she almost strangled and had to wear a black velvet band around her throat until the day she died? I could go on like that.
Please don't, Mrs. Umney. I admit that while I do not, of course, believe in such a thing as this Canterville ghost, there is something about the house that
interferes with our sleep, and we're going to squelch if
it cost you the life of one in your family.
Mrs. Umney, please.
Bah, if you persist in your silly fears.
Then please, may I give notice, sir?
We'll talk about that tomorrow or the next day.
Tomorrow may be too late. Doesn't the persistence of the blood spot on the library carpet tell you anything, sir?
Yes, that's a humdinger. I must admit, if I myself hadn't locked up the library tight every night after removing the stains.
6 nights it's been, sir. And each morning the blood is back again as though you never touched it.
Yes, but what kind of blood is it? Washington, you've got your list.
Yes, here it is. The first morning it came back blood red and turned even bloodier the next 3 mornings. The 4th morning it was a dull, almost Indian red. The 5th it was vermilion, and this morning it was a sort of rich purple.
Sort of like a chameleon, isn't it?
I don't think we ought to joke about it, Mother.
I know you shouldn't, miss.
I'm considering writing an article on the subject of the permanence of bloody stains when connected with a crime.
I think I'll go up to bed now, Mother.
I think we'd all better. It's long after 11. Are you going to lock the library again, Hiram?
I certainly am. Come on, Washington. We may have a new color for your chart tomorrow morning.
Good night, Mrs. Umney.
Good night, madam. And I pray it is a good night. Good night, miss.
Sleep tightly, Mrs. Umney.
Did you screen the fire, Washington?
Okay, Dad. Lock her up.
Are you coming, Hiram?
Coming, Elizabeth. It's almost time to wake the twins. Have you got everything ready, Washington?
Yes, in my closet. I'll wait just before midnight. Good night, Dad.
See you later. Good night, son.
Maybe he's dead. He did that in 1575 or it wouldn't be a ghost. Shh. I hear something.
That's only the dog down in the barn.
He must be outside the door now.
What happened?
I think we got him.
He tripped on the string. See? It's broken.
And the pail of water fell right on him when our door opened.
Something tells me that's the last we'll hear of ye old Canterville ghost. Did you hear him shriek when we saw our scarecrow?
Look, he knocked it over. The broom handle has gone right through the pumpkin shell.
Where's Virginia?
Virginia's not here. Hiram, is everything all right?
All right. Virginia.
I'll look downstairs. Virg, where are you? Virginia!
Hiram, what's the matter? Where is Virginia?
Be quiet, Mother. She's around someplace.
She's not in bed, Daddy. The bed's all messed up.
Is that you, Virginia?
No, sir. It's me, Mrs. Umney. Has anything happened?
Happened? Mrs. Umney, help us find her. Virginia, my little girl, wake up the servants.
Now, Elizabeth, be quiet. We'll find her. She's probably fallen asleep in one of the big chairs downstairs by the fire. Is she there, Washington?
No, Dad. The library's locked, and she's not in any of the other rooms.
This all comes of your crazy fooling in the halls with that.
With the Canterville ghost, madam. I heard him stalking through the house.
Washington, catch this key and open the library doors. She may have gotten in there somehow and fallen asleep.
All right, Dad.
Since midnight, he's been prowling around.
We didn't see him, Miss Umney.
We've been waiting for him since the clock struck 12.
He didn't come out until just a few minutes ago.
There, madam. Maybe she's safe after all.
Is she there, Washington?
No, Dad. Everything's just as we left it in the library. Except
what?
Except the blood stain. It's back again. Only this time it's much bigger and bloodier than it's ever been before.
Virginia, my baby, my baby.
Take her to her room, Mrs. Umney, and wake the other servants. And the gardeners, too. We'll search the grounds. Daylight's coming.
I knew it. I knew this was to be the night. This is his revenge for all you've done to him the past week.
Be quiet, Mrs. Umney. Virginia can't be far. We'll find her if we have to search every corner and tear apart every brick.
Looking for a scary good way to spend your free time? Download Instagoal, a perfect way to post and edit spooky photos of you and your whole Halloween crew. Hey, if you've got it, haunt it.
And now we conclude the Canterville Ghost.
Oh, is this your hiding place, Mr. Ghost?
My name is Sir Simon de Canterville.
Yes, Sir Simon.
What are you doing here?
I started to the twins' room to beg them to leave you alone tonight. I feel so sorry for you, Sir Simon, but the twins are going back to Eton next week, and then, if you behave yourself, no one will annoy you.
What is the matter?
So it was you who stole my box of paints, and all the different shades of red are used up. That explains that silly blood stain on the library carpet.
Well, what was I to do? It's very difficult to get real blood nowadays. Didn't it frighten you?
No, of course it didn't. Though it did my mother a little, and it certainly annoyed my father. Mrs. Umney was the only one that...
Ah, yes, Miss Umney is a very satisfactory person.
I do hope you'll be nice from now on, Sir Simon.
No, please, don't go, Miss Virginia. You're a great comfort to one so lonely and so unhappy as I am.
But I'm getting sleepy.
Sleepy? I've not slept for 300 years.
Poor ghost. Have you no place where you can sleep?
There is a garden where the grass grows long and deep, where the nightingale sings all night through while a cold crystal moon looks down. A yew of trees spread their giant arms over the sleepers.
You mean the Garden of Death?
Yes, death. It must be so beautiful to lie in the soft brown earth with the grasses waving above one's head and listen to silence, to have no yesterday and no tomorrow. Have you read the old prophecy on the stained glass library window?
Yes, I learned it by heart the first day we came. When a golden girl can win prayer from out the lips of sin, when the barren almond bears, and a little child shall give away its tears, then shall the house be still, and peace come to Canterville.
You can be that golden girl, Miss Virginia, and open for me the portals of death's house, for love is always with you, and love is stronger than death is.
I don't think I know what you mean.
If you will weep with me because I have no tears, and pray for me because I have no faith, you who have always been sweet, good, and gentle will move the angel of death to have mercy on me.
But where would I have to do this, Sir Simon?
And the darkness filled with fearful shapes, where wicked voices will whisper in your ear, but they will not harm you, for against the purity of a child, the powers of hell cannot prevail. Are you afraid?
I'm not afraid, and I will ask the angel to have mercy on you.
Virginia, my darling, thank God. Where have you been? We were just about to send out the searching parties. Hiram, she's in here in the upper hall, safe and sound.
Oh, Mother, I'm so sorry you were worried. I didn't know it would take so long.
Take so long?
Virginia, where have you been, child? Come up, boys. She's here. Tell the servants to go back to bed.
Oh, Miss Virginia, are you really safe?
My baby.
Virg, where on earth have you been?
Here she is, Melissa. Here she is. Hurry.
Well, Virginia, where have you been?
I've been with the ghost, Daddy. He's dead. After waiting 300 years, he's gone to sleep in peace. Would you like to see him?
Child, what are you talking about?
There's a panel on the wall near the window in the tapestry room. He's there in a little cell, just a skeleton, tied to a huge iron ring.
Come on, twins. Let's to the tapestry room.
That would be the remains where they have hidden all these years of old Sir Simon de Canterville.
Yes, Mrs. Umney. He had been very wicked, but he was really sorry for all he had done. Before he could really die and go to sleep forever, he needed someone to pray for him. So he asked me to pray for him, and I did. And he gave me this box of beautiful jewels before he died.
Dad, come quickly. It's here, just as Virginia said. The secret room, the skeleton and everything.
Oh, my child. What a night of terror and of heartache.
Never mind, madam. The ghost of Sir Simon will walk no more. See, it's light already and quite clear. Why, fancy that.
What is it, Mrs. Umney?
That old withered almond tree in the court. I do believe it's blossomed. Yes, I can see the flowers quite plainly in the dawn.
Can you really, Mrs. Umney? Then you need never fear the Canterville ghost again, for he's now at rest.
You have been listening to The Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. Those in the cast were Finn Hopman as Virginia, Justin Waltmate as Hiram Otis, Addie Anthony as Mrs. Otis, Andrea Erickson as Virginia's brother Washington, Gwen Kibler, and Kaylee Hubbard as the twins, Alyssa Harris as Mrs. Umney, Jarrett Reeves as Lord Canterville, Jaron Knobloch as the Canterville Ghost himself, and Ali Walties as your narrator. Sound effects performed by Emily Clark, Kristen Schabel, Katie Grossman, and Taylor McDonald.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our final story from Mascoutah High School Drama Club's Radio Theater. For our final performance, we bring you the classic tale of the Cask of Amontillado, from the famed poet and author of Mystery and the Macabre, Edgar Allan Poe. But before we begin tonight's story, a short interlude. Tired of being lonely in your empty house? Invite them in from the walls. They've missed you. They've been waiting and would love to come inside. It's cold in there. Let them in. And now, get ready for tonight's final story, The Cask of Amontillado. Before we begin tonight's story, perhaps you are wondering about Edgar Allan Poe.
Poe is considered one of America's greatest writers. He is said to have invented the modern detective story. Now let's get to tonight's final production, The Cask of Amontillado.
Imagine, if you will, the main character, Montresor. Montresor was a vengeful and manipulative person, so a trusting person like yourself had to beware of her.
Let's pretend Montresor is sitting down with you and sharing her story over a glass of wine at a local drinking establishment. She is dressed in the latest fashion, smart makeup, high heels, and a little black dress. Although she looks like any ordinary lady, there is something sinister in her eyes.
Buonasera, signora. I'm very honored that you have met with me for a drink tonight. I understand that you're interested in something that occurred nearly 50 years ago. It isn't much of a story, actually, but I'll share it with you if you really want to know. There was a woman who I despised for one simple reason. She laughed at my proud name, Montresor. My name is of an old and honored family. Now, you may think that making fun of someone's name isn't enough of a reason for what happened to her, but I disagree with you. One's name and reputation is everything. I sat many evenings with Fortunata in this very drinking establishment. Fortunata was a strong woman, a woman who to be feared, but she had one great weakness. She liked to drink good wine, and indeed, she drank much of it.
Montresor! Good evening, my friend.
My dear Fortunata! She is no friend of mine. Fortunata has sullied my good name, and I would make her pay for this, that I would have my revenge. I am indeed glad that I have met with you. I was just thinking of you, for I've been tasting my new wine, and I have bought a full cask of a fine wine, which they tell me is an Amontillado, but...
Amontillado? Quite impossible.
It is true, she knew a lot about fine wine and proudly believed that she was a trained judge of them. But I too knew old wines well and bought the best that I could find. I know, dear friend, it does not seem possible that I have a full cask of Amontillado. As I could not find you, I was just going to talk to Lucretia. Anyone understands wines, it is Lucretia. She will tell me.
Lucretia? She does not know one wine from another.
Yes, I sought revenge. But you must not suppose, however, that I spoke of this to anyone. I must not suffer as a result of my taking revenge. But they say Lucretia knows as much about wines as you do.
Come, let us go.
Go where?
To your vaults, to taste the wine.
As I mentioned, I must not suffer as a result of my taking revenge. A wrong is not made right in that manner. And also, the wrong would not be made right unless Fortunata knew that she was paying and knew who was making her pay. No, my friend, no. I can see you are not well, and the vaults are very cold and wet.
I do not care. Let us go. I'm well enough. The cold is nothing.
I gave Fortunata no cause to doubt me. I continued to smile in her face, and she did not understand that I was now smiling at the thought of what I had planned, at the thought of my revenge. Are you certain you want to go to the vaults, dear friend?
Yes, and Amontillado. Someone is playing games with you. And Lucretia, Lucretia knows nothing about wine. Nothing at all.
Come then, friend, we will take my carriage.
Come, we must hurry to the vaults.
As you wish. Fortunata took my arm, and I allowed her to hurry the carriage to my great stone palace. My family, the Montresors, had lived for centuries in this palace.
Will Fortunata seek revenge as she said, or will she turn the carriage around and head back to the city? We'll find out in a minute, but first, a short interlude.
Oops, he's on fire. Burning Man. Burning Man is thirsty. Give him a soda. He said please give him an orange soda. I love orange soda. Too good for Burning Man. Drink it all yourself. I love orange soda.
We're back to our story, the cask of Amontillado. As you may recall, Montresor was about to enter her great palace with her nemesis, Fortunata.
Your home looks empty. Where are your servants? They should be here to greet us, friend.
Those lazy servants, they always sneak away when I am not home in the evenings. There was no one at home. I had told the servants that they must not leave the palace, as I would not return until the following morning, and they must care for the place. This, I knew, was enough to be certain that they would all leave as soon as my back was turned.
You need better control of them, my friend.
Here, take this torch. I gave a torch to Fortunata and led her to a wide doorway. Come this way, Signora. Follow me, but take heed of the steep steps as you go.
As I expected, it is very cold and dark down here. Just as a good wine cellar should be.
Fortunata's step was not sure because of the wine she had been drinking. She looked uncertainly around her, trying to see through the thick darkness which pushed in around us.
I can't see a thing.
You will in time.
But wait, what are those?
Our eyes soon became accustomed to the darkness. We could see the bones of the dead lying in large piles along the walls. Nothing you don't know about, just the family grave.
How could I forget?
Here, Fortunata, drink some of this fine medoc. It will help keep us warm. From the long rows of bottles which were lying on the floor among the bones, I chose one which contained a very good wine. Since I did not have anything to open the bottle with, I struck it against the stone wall and broke off the small end. And then I offered it to Fortunata. Drink, Fortunata!
Thank you, my friend. I drink to the dead who lie sleeping around us.
And I, Fortunata, drink to your long life.
Ali, a very fine wine. But the Amontillado.
It is farther on. Come! We walked on for some time. We were now under the river's bed, and water fell in drops upon us from above. Deeper into the ground we went, past still more bones.
Your vaults are many large. There seems to be no end to them.
We are a great family, and an old one. It is not far now, but I can see you are trembling with the cold. Come, let us go back before it is too late.
It is nothing. Let us go on. But first, another drink of your medoc.
I took up from among the bones another bottle. It was a wine of a fine quality, a de Grave. Again, I broke off the neck of the bottle. Fortunata took it and drank it all without stopping for a breath. She laughed and threw the empty bottle over her shoulder. Come, it isn't much farther now. Finally, we are here! We arrived at a vault in the wall in which the air was so old and so heavy that our lights almost died. Against three of the walls were large piles of bones, higher than our heads. Step carefully here, friend. You don't want to upset the spirits. From the fourth wall, someone had pulled down all the bones, and they were all spread out around us on the ground. In the middle of the wall was an opening into another vault, if I can even call it that. It was a little room about 3 feet wide, 6 or 7 feet high, and perhaps 4 feet deep. It was hardly more than a hole in the wall. Go on, go in. The Amontillado is in there.
My pleasure.
Fortunata continued to go forward uncertainly. I followed her immediately. Soon, of course, she reached the back wall.
What is this? It is very dark in here. I can't see a thing. Where's the Amontillado?
Fortunata stood there for a moment, facing the wall, surprised and wondering. In the wall, there were 2 heavy iron rings. A short chain was hanging from one of these and a lock from the other. Fortunata, put your hand against the wall. You must feel how the water runs over it. Once more, I ask you, please, will you not go back? No? If not, then I must leave you. But first, I must do everything I can for you.
But the Amontillado.
Ah, yes, indeed, the Amontillado. As I spoke these words, I began to search among the bones, throwing them to one side and the other. I found the stones, which earlier I had taken down from the wall. Quickly, I began to build the wall again, covering the hole where Fortunata stood, trembling.
Montresor, what are you doing?
I continued working. I could hear her pulling at the chains, shaking it wildly.
Montresor, this is a very good joke indeed. Many times we'll laugh about it. As we drink our wine together.
Yes, of course, as we drink the Amontillado.
But is it not late? Should we not be going back? They will be expecting us. Let us go.
Yes, let us go. As I said this, I lifted the last stone from the ground.
Montresor, for the love of God!
Yes, for the love of God! I heard no answer. Fortunata! Fortunata! Please, Fortunata, you are my dear friend! I heard no more answer from Fortunata. I heard only a low, soft sound of a half cry of fear. My heart grew sick. It must have been so cold. I hurried to force the last stone into its position. And I put the old bones again in a pile against the wall. For half a century now, no human has touched them. May she rest in peace. Won't you have more wine?
You have just heard tonight's final story, The Cask of Amontillado, by Edgar Allan Poe, adapted by Deborah Baldwin, brought to you by the Mascoutah High School Drama Club. Our cast was Ali Walters as Montresor, Laura Dismer as Fortunata, and Makari Robinson McNeese and Lexi Henschel as your narrators. Special effects were produced by Emily Clark, Kristen Schaubel, Katie Grossman, and Taylor McDonald. A special thanks goes out to our film crew and Mr. Doring and our technology consultant, Mr. Andrew Sanker.
Our producers would also like to thank Ms. Jessica Erickson, Mr. Keith Eschman, and Mr. Bob Schmidt, the Mascoutah High School custodial and secretarial staff and administration, and our families for their continued support.
This production was directed by Mr. Scott Erickson and Mr. Frederick Rice for the Mascoutah High School Radio Theater in conjunction with Tribe Talk. Thank you for tuning in. We hope to see you this spring when Mascoutah High School Dramatics presents Legally Blonde, the musical.